There's a pattern going on across the country where U.S. attorneys who refuse to bend to the will of Donald Trump keep getting pressured out of office or fired. It happened right before a federal prosecutor refused to dismiss the case against New York City Mayor Eric Adams. It happened right before the indictments of James Comey and Letitia James. And it also happened in August in a case that got no attention at the time until the New York Times exposed the backstory months later. I'm going to break it down today on All Rise News here on Legal AF, part of the Midas Touch Network. Take a moment to hit subscribe before I dive deep into this article. It's an article published in the Times this week with the title, U.S. Attorney was forced out after clashes over how to handle Russia inquiry. And right from the bat, right from the headline, we know this was a case about Trump's years-long effort to try to discredit the Russia investigation and Russia's documented attack on the 2016 presidential election because they wanted him in the White House. It was something that was found by Robert Mueller in his report. It was something that was found by a Republican Congress in a bipartisan report of the Senate Intelligence Committee, then under the control of Republicans. No one doubts that the investigation was over an attack on our democratic system that happened, that the Russian government was behind. But even here, even in the year 2025, Trump is still trying to discredit it. And according to the New York Times, he tried to discredit it through a U.S. attorney in the Western District of Virginia that, months before in the Eastern District of Virginia, U.S. Attorney Eric Siebert was pressured out to make way for Trump's loyalist, Lindsay Halligan, his former lawyer with no prosecutorial experience, to override the concerns of every career prosecutor to go after James Comey and Letitia James. There was something in the Western District of Virginia where a U.S. attorney said, hey, this isn't worth a grand jury investigation, and they pressure about. I'm going to read from the article. The U.S. attorney in the Western District of Virginia overseeing the case, Todd Gilbert, was forced to resign in August because he refused to sideline a high-ranking career prosecutor who found the evidence flimsy. And so here's the fact pattern. It happened in August. We didn't know about it at the time. They find out the backstory. Here's the backstory. Quote, shortly after Mr. Gilbert took over as U.S. attorney, senior Justice Department officials instructed him to open an investigation into the handling of secret documents related to Russian intelligence reports, according to their sources. After reviewing the evidence, Mr. Gilbert told his superiors that he did not believe there was sufficient evidence to justify a grand jury investigation. Stop right there. So they didn't even think that the evidence was worth a grand jury investigation, let alone an indictment, or that they could prove anything beyond a reasonable doubt. We don't know the details of this investigation other than Trump wanted to discredit the Russia investigation. It continues. Frustrated by that answer, aides to Attorney General Pam Bondi and her deputy Todd Blanche blamed a senior career attorney in that office who they believed had swayed Mr. Gilbert, Zachary Lee, a veteran prosecutor with more than 2 decades of experience involving public corruption and narcotics, among other issues. So you have aides to Pam Bondi and Todd Blanche, Trump's former personal lawyers, and one might argue current personal lawyers, in charge of the Justice Department, saying that they're frustrated that he won't open an unwarranted grand jury investigation, and they blame a guy who has 20 years experience covering very serious cases, bringing serious cases to justice inside the Western District of Virginia. It says a little later in the story, pressed to further sideline and remove this prosecutor, Mr. Lee, Mr. Gilbert refused, these people said. Department officials then informed Mr. Gilbert that he would be fired, and he resigned shortly afterward, posting a GIF on social media with a joke from the movie Anchorman, in which the lead character exclaims, "Boy, that escalated quickly." And that actually happened. If you look at Todd Gilbert's page on Twitter. This is the post where he says, boy, he posts the meme from Anchorman, boy, that escalated quickly. And he posted that in August. And folks had no idea at the time what he was talking about, other than he had a very short tenure. He was appointed as U.S. attorney and suddenly ousted for mysterious reasons. And now, in the wake of Comey's indictment, in the wake of Letitia James's indictment, we find out this backstory of this case the Trump DOJ demanded, and a federal prosecutor who was a Republican lawmaker, a high-ranking Republican lawmaker in the Commonwealth of Virginia. And he is sacked from the job, pressured out, because he won't fire a highly experienced prosecutor who, like him, believes that the evidence is flimsy to open this politically motivated investigation. He won't go along with it. He loses his job, posts an Anchorman meme, and months later, we find out this is a continuation of a pattern we're seeing across the country, where U.S. attorneys lose their jobs if they don't make a case against one of Trump's allies go away, which happened in the case of New York City Mayor Eric Adams, the corruption case and bribery case involving the Turkish government. A U.S. attorney lost her job after refusing to dismiss the case, which she stood by, and her AUSAs stood by, the line prosecutors who make the case go forward. And there was pretty much a bloodbath where folks in the Southern District of New York lost their jobs, in Maine Justice and the Public Corruption Unit lost their jobs. And we saw what happened before the indictment of Comey and Letitia James, where Eric Siebert, again, a conservative prosecutor. By the way, these three U.S. attorneys can all safely be described as conservative. Danielle Sassoon was the former U.S. attorney in the Southern District of New York who refused to dismiss the case against New York City Mayor Eric Adams. Eric Siebert was a conservative prosecutor who was trusted by both parties because he was perceived to be a straight shooter. He would follow the evidence, and he wasn't going to let politics enter into it, which is why he lost his job, was replaced by Lindsay Halligan, who has only had experience representing insurance companies as a lawyer, never been a criminal prosecutor. Her first time in a grand jury room was in the James Comey case, where there was a catalog of mistakes and errors, a comedy of errors. And so she's in charge of the Eastern District of New York. And now we find out in the Western District of New York, same fact pattern occurred, except instead of someone new pushing forward a case that all of the line prosecutors think wasn't warranted, the investigation, according to the New York Times, just petered out. They didn't take it anywhere further because maybe this wasn't a priority for Donald Trump to bring a politically motivated case. Here, he had other fish that he wanted to fry and other people that he wanted to attack. Now, I want to make clear here, the reason I'm going into this kind of depth about the pressuring out of U.S. attorneys, this hasn't happened before. And there's a lot of false equivalency saying, oh, this is just retribution. Trump is doing to other people what they did to him. This never happened to Donald Trump. Donald Trump was prosecuted by independent prosecutors who never suffered this crisis of conscience, never said, oh, the evidence doesn't really warrant it. I'm going to go out. Joe Biden never went out and demanded publicly that Trump be prosecuted, never demanded it privately. There's been reporting about his frustrations over the case. And even that reporting says he's never spoke to Merrick Garland about it. And these cases took years. What we see the fact pattern happening here is that Trump demands something happen. He demands it happen now. And anyone who doesn't get along with the program is pressured out or fired. And this is a pattern. It's why the details of it matter to reject
the false equivalency. Maybe you've heard folks say this is just like what the other side did. No, it's not. Now we're seeing 3 times a U.S. attorney pressured out of office because they didn't do what Donald Trump wanted. That didn't happen in another presidency. And that's why this story, even though it's a story that happened in August, it's a long time ago, it's a case that disappeared, it's an important story by the New York Times because it's another piece of the puzzle and why you should pay attention to it. I'm Adam Klasfeld. You've been watching All Rise News. To find out more about my reporting and the topics that I cover, visit www.allrisenews.com. That's www.allrisenews.com. If you subscribe, you can get my reporting right in your inbox. And I'm a fully independent journalist. Your subscriptions allow me to do the work that I do and to cover the stories that I cover and to lay it out there and to break it down about the news and the significance of the news so you can put it in context and understand what's going on for the conversations that you're doing in your lives with your friends and your family. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.
Can't get your fill of Legal AF? Me neither. That's why we formed the Legal AF Substack. Every time we mention something in a hot take, whether it's a court filing or a oral argument, come over to the Substack. You'll find the court filing and the oral argument there, including a daily roundup that I do called, wait for it, Morning AF. What else? All the other contributors from Legal AF are there as well. We got some new reporting. We got interviews. We got ad-free versions of the podcast and hot takes. Where? Legal AF on Substack. Come over now to free subscribe.